Information Communication. And next, Mr. Denis Brunetti, the President for the Ericsson for Vietnam, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. And Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Sơn, the CEO of the Vietnam, of the Media Venture Vietnam MVV. So thank you very much all three invited guests for participating in the show today. First of all, I would like to invite you to watch a video clip, please.
% GDP của Việt Nam vào năm 2025 và 30% vào năm 2030 với tỷ trọng kinh tế số trong từng ngành. Đây là những mục tiêu quan trọng được đưa ra trong chương trình chuyển đổi số quốc gia đến năm 2025, định hướng đến năm 2030 đã được Thủ tướng Chính phủ phê duyệt từ tháng 6 năm 2020. Xác định vừa phát triển chính phủ số, kinh tế số, xã hội số, vừa hình thành các doanh nghiệp công nghệ số Việt Nam có năng lực đi ra toàn cầu. Câu chuyện về thúc đẩy chuyển đổi số đóng vai trò quan trọng trong chiến lược phát triển kinh tế trong thời gian tới của Việt Nam. Tại Việt Nam, mặc dù bị ảnh hưởng nặng nề do dịch bệnh, nhưng nền kinh tế số năm 2021 rơi vào khoảng 21 tỷ đô la Mỹ, tăng 31% so với năm 2020, tương đương Malaysia và chỉ đứng sau Indonesia và Thái Lan. Trong đó, công nghệ 5G được coi là một công cụ quan trọng để thúc đẩy quá trình chuyển đổi số trong mọi lĩnh vực từ sản xuất, giáo dục, y tế, nông nghiệp, tài chính ngân hàng, năng lượng đến thương mại dịch vụ. Nhiều mô hình kinh doanh, thậm chí là những ngành dịch vụ hoàn toàn mới đang xuất hiện, thay thế cho những mô hình truyền thống nhờ sự hỗ trợ của công nghệ mới như 5G. Với tốc độ cao gấp 10 lần 4G, nói cách khác tốc độ sẽ tăng từ 10 megabit trên giây lên 100 megabit trên giây. Công nghệ 5G giúp tiết kiệm tối đa thời gian và mang lại một lợi thế quan trọng cho phép nhiều công ty tự động hóa các tác vụ có thể tự động hóa nhằm tiết kiệm lượng thời gian đáng kể và quản lý hoạt động tại chỗ hiệu quả hơn. Theo các chuyên gia tới từ MVV Academy, một chiến lược đúng đắn cùng với một mô hình kinh doanh hiệu quả gắn liền với chuyển đổi số trên nền tảng công nghệ 5G sẽ giúp cho doanh nghiệp gia tăng hiệu quả vận hành, trải nghiệm của khách hàng được nâng cao và đặc biệt là doanh nghiệp sẽ tạo ra lợi thế cạnh tranh cho mình trong bối cảnh xu thế số hóa và công nghệ trên thị trường hiện nay. Không giống như các thế hệ mạng di động trước đây, 5G được thiết kế để giải quyết vấn đề hao tổn năng lượng tiêu thụ. Khả năng kết nối nhiều đối tượng cùng lúc sẽ cho phép phát triển các hệ thống thông minh, sẽ góp phần hiện thực hóa các mục tiêu môi trường mà xã hội hiện đại đang đặt ra. Cụ thể là tiêu thụ năng lượng và nước tốt hơn, đồng thời kiểm soát lượng khí thải CO2.
Trước đây cảng biển, sân bay, đường hầm, đường xá và cầu cống đều là cơ sở hạ tầng vật chất vô cùng quan trọng giúp các quốc gia phát triển thịnh vượng. Nhưng trong tương lai, 5G cũng sẽ có tầm quan trọng không thua kém.
Tại Việt Nam, Viettel Innovation Lab, tập đoàn công nghệ viễn thông Viettel và tập đoàn Ericsson, tập đoàn Qualcomm Technology đã hợp tác nghiên cứu, thử nghiệm và thiết lập thành công tốc độ truyền dữ liệu 5G đạt hơn 4,7 GB trên giây. Tốc độ này cao gấp 40 lần tốc độ 4G và gấp hơn 2 lần tốc độ 5G hiện có, giúp Viettel trở thành một trong những mạng viễn thông có tốc độ 5G nhanh nhất châu Á. Kết quả này khẳng định năng lực vượt trội của công nghệ 5G sóng cực ngắn mmWave mà Viettel đang triển khai tại Việt Nam. Tại hội thảo World Mobile Broadband and ICT năm 2022 về hiện đại hóa hạ tầng viễn thông và dịch vụ nội dung số, hướng tới thúc đẩy nền kinh tế số, xã hội số diễn ra mới đây, Thứ trưởng Bộ Thông tin và Truyền thông Phạm Đức Long đã xác định phát triển hạ tầng số sẽ là cơ sở cho sự hình thành chính phủ số, kinh tế số và xã hội số. Chỉ có làm chủ về hạ tầng số mới có thể tạo ra sự thay đổi một cách tổng thể và toàn diện mọi mặt đời sống kinh tế xã hội. Để làm rõ hơn câu chuyện về làn sóng phát triển kinh tế xã hội tiếp theo của Việt Nam sẽ đến từ đổi mới sáng tạo, khoa học và công nghệ được thúc đẩy bởi nền kinh tế số thông qua dữ liệu như thế nào. Dữ liệu sẽ trở thành một loại nhiên liệu mới, đảm bảo hoạt động của động cơ tăng trưởng mới là Internet và nền kinh tế số ra sao. Và trong thế giới mới này, khi 5G đóng vai trò cơ sở hạ tầng quan trọng của quốc gia như Việt Nam, chúng ta cần phải làm gì để các ứng dụng vận hành trên 5G sẽ tạo ra giá trị lớn cho xã hội, người tiêu dùng và ngành công nghiệp. Mời quý vị cùng theo dõi talk show với chủ đề Sẵn sàng thương mại hóa 5G để thúc đẩy chuyển đổi số tại Việt Nam do báo Đầu tư tổ chức ngày hôm nay ngày 4 tháng 4.
Thank you very much. Back to our studio today. You know that I think in the world these days, latest statistics show that more or less on maybe 64 countries have already commercialized 5G. And among the top 10, we see that actually China, South Korea, US are among the latest, the country who use the highest, maybe the biggest expansion of the 5G utilization in the country. And you know that, for example, with China, I think maybe somewhere in 2021, they have already around 450 million subscribers of 5G, which account for 80% of total global 5G subscribers. So that's really a very impressive number. And according to the GSA, the Global Mobile Supply Association, it will take possibly around 3.5 years to have 1 billion 5G subscribers, compared to maybe about 4 years to take a 4G, and a very big number of 12 years to have 1 billion subscribers in 3G. So I think that actually is really very impressive number. And back to Vietnam, you see that about 2 years ago, in June 2020, Prime Minister have issued decision number 749 on the national program on the digital transformation. I think maybe having said that, I think maybe Vietnam may be one of the very first country in the world have such a very big high-level program on digital transformation. And not only stopping at that, but also until the end of 2020, Prime Minister also issued another decision, which is decision number 2289 on the Industrial Revolution number 4.0. And the most and the latest, I think around 10 days ago, we have another Prime Minister decision number 411, which is on digital society, digital economy. So to say that in terms of the strategy speaking, Vietnam have prepared a lot for digital transformation. I think this is also a very promising number. And also with the information that now you just watched from the video clip. So I'd like to ask some of you a very basic question. So over the past 2 years, what do you think about the digital transformation and the 5G commercialization? What are your first impression? Is this the fast process or is it slow? You first, Dennis, please.
I think it's the right speed, actually. So I think, as you mentioned earlier, many countries in the world, actually I think 78 roughly, have already launched 5G commercially. Ericsson is present in about 48 of those. 114 live commercial 5G networks have already been deployed by Ericsson globally, but in different countries and at different pace and at different rates, depending on the need in that country, of course. And in Vietnam, I think the speed is about right. You know? So I think the government has a good strategy, you've mentioned earlier. So clearly they have a great strategy to have 30% of the digital economy, or the GDP of Vietnam, attributed to the digital economy by 2030, with labour productivity growth rates of 7.5% per annum by 2030, and 7% by 2025, with 25% of the digital economy contributing to the GDP. That strong message and that strong focus and vision, I think, clearly articulates or drives and motivates and inspires organisations, including Ericsson, of course, to collaborate and work together with mobile operators like VNPT and Viettel and Mobifone and Vietnam Mobile to launch 5G as required. So I think when you look back in time, when 2G was launched in the early 90s, it was a sea of 2G, but it took many years to do that, of course. And then you had pockets or islands of 3G from 2010, and then you had a sea of 3G eventually, with pockets or islands of 4G in 2015, 16, 17, and that continues to expand. Eventually you'll have a sea of 4G with pockets and islands of 5G. So it's done step by step. I think it's smart to do it incrementally, and I think it's a wise decision by the government so far in terms of the way they've deployed 5G, in terms of commercial trials, technical trials, making sure that we get it right before we go full-blown commercial, which I expect will happen probably next year.
So actually we are totally positive about the progress we have made so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. What do you think about that, Mr. Sơn? What will be your impression of the past 2 years regarding 5G and digital transformation?
So when you mentioned the past 2 years, maybe you mentioned about the COVID-19. So definitely COVID-19 have accelerated the digital transformation process. And I think in terms of government policy and the launching of the infrastructures, we are on the right base. However, in terms of readiness from the private sector and enterprise to capitalize on the 5G, I think we are a little bit slow. I think the awareness of the private sector and enterprise are not there yet. So they look at 4G and they look at 5G, and they don't really understand the revolution in terms of technology and how that technology could bring and accelerate the digital transformation. So I'm positive about our policy and infrastructure. I think we have a lot of things that need to educate the entrepreneurs and the business sector about how to utilize the new technology.
Thank you, Mr. Sun. So actually from a TNC point of view, you see this is quite positive, right approach. However, from the private sector itself, I think there's some observation to see that actually maybe it's still a bit slow compared to the expectation of the business community. And also there's one important thing that Mr. Sun has mentioned, that is COVID-19. Actually, this is really a special context that actually give a very maybe both positive and negative, but negative firstly and then positive come later. Influence on the business community, and also a very strong pressure on what the business community should do in order to cope with the COVID-19, and maybe we to some extent maybe take some advantage of the 5G and other technology also. So I think, but however, that's also a reason why we should have our talk show today. This is just to give more insight about how different stakeholders actually can think about 5G, how to accelerate Vietnam's readiness in 5G and applying 5G in this transformation. So let's come to the main discussion today. I think maybe we have our three invited guests, each representing for one particular sector. Mr. Nang is for the public sector, for part of the Ministry of Information and Communication, which take a very crucial role in the 5G as well from digital transformation. We have Dennis here, also representing Ericsson, a very good comeback. From many years from the telecommunication device and now back to the 5G device, very important. And Mr. Thanh Sơn, a very, I would say, elite representative of the private sector. So, and then he will tell us later on about what the private sector think and what do they expect about the 5G. So first I'd like to invite Mr. Dennis Brunetti. What do you think about the importance of the 5G infrastructure in Vietnam? And actually, what has Ericsson done so far during the past year to support Vietnam in this particular area?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think we mentioned earlier those various decrees and papers and strategies and visions that have been articulated extremely well by the government in Vietnam, and I think it is world leading actually in many ways. Actually, having that real consolidated, end-to-end, integrated strategy on the digital economy and the importance of the digital economy, which by the way in Vietnam has grown dramatically. I remember in 2015 it was only like $3 billion and today it's well over 20 billion.
Sure.
And in those papers, in those strategic visionary instructions that have been released and decrees that have been articulated, it's clear that 5G is defined as the critical national infrastructure. It's the enabler for that digital transformation to occur, for that digital economy to grow and to prosper and flourish across many sectors, economic sectors. So ultimately 3G and 4G was very much about communication, connecting people to the internet, and then you had all these wonderful applications that have emerged because of that. With 5G, it's about consumers, but also very much about enterprises and connecting enterprises and making enterprises more efficient and productive, and not only enterprises but government and society. So it's a digital society, digital economy and digital government focus that the government in Vietnam has, and that three-pronged attack I think is the right way to go forward. And clearly 5G will enable industries like manufacturing and transport and energy, education, healthcare, logistics, you name it, become more efficient and productive. And that will help drive the next wave of socio-economic development. It'll increase automation. So for example, in manufacturing, there will be less people in manufacturing and fishery and forestry and retail and agriculture. And those 5 industries today in Vietnam account for about 70% of employment. There'll be less people working in those industries, more automation, making them more efficient. But there'll be more jobs created than displaced because of 5G as an innovation platform. 5G will be an innovation platform that helps create new industries, new companies, new jobs through startup entrepreneurship. And the government has done very well in articulating that also. So it's not just about increasing automation and efficiency and productivity through 5G and digital data connectivity, but also making sure that startup entrepreneurship flourishes. The National Innovation Centre by the Ministry of Planning and Investment is a fantastic initiative, and that will also use 5G technology to help create new applications, new use cases, new IoT applications, which help create again new companies, new industries, and ultimately new jobs. And the fourth industrial revolution, like the third and like the second, will actually increase employment, not decrease employment. So that's really the double benefit of 5G.
Yeah, I think that's great. You use what enabler, 5G. So given the fact that actually Ericsson, as I heard that actually Ericsson has been named a leader in the 2022 Magic Quadrant for 5G network infrastructure for communication service provider by Gartner. So how does it translate it with your inspiration and spirit of identifying as 5G as enabler to support the communication service provider in Vietnam?
Sure. So it's actually 2021 and 2022 that we're the leader in both.
Right. Okay.
And also Frost & Sullivan, another independent party. So we're proud of that achievement, and it's driven primarily by technology leadership. So our technology leadership, especially around technology like massive MIMO, uplink booster we call it, but also dynamic spectrum sharing, whereby you can use the same spectrum for 4G and 5G. So we call it Ericsson spectrum sharing. So in the case of some countries like Switzerland, for example, they had Ericsson 4G throughout the country, and they were able to upgrade to 5G with the same infrastructure. So we've got this thing called Ericsson Radio System, ERS. We've been deploying that radio unit since 2015, and all our deployments in Vietnam, almost all our deployments in Vietnam, are leveraging or using ERS, which means it's already 5G ready hardware. And then to go to 5G, of course, it's a software programmable upgrade. So that efficiency in being able to go from 4G to 5G in a non-standalone 5G use case is very efficient for Vietnamese operators to do that. And then we've also got the dual mode 5G core, which helps you use the existing 4G core network infrastructure for 5G as well. So again, it helps reduce the investment cost in going from 4G to 5G more efficiently. And what we've done in Vietnam is we've worked with the operators. So we've worked with already VNPT, Viettel and Mobifone with 5G technical and commercial trials since 2019 and 2020, helping prepare for some of the use cases as well in the Viettel Innovation Lab as well, working in partnership with Qualcomm, because it is important that we collaborate, and also not only with other industry players but also academia, because you mentioned, Son, about really educating enterprises about the use cases of 5G and how to use 5G in an effective way. We're on the way of doing that. We're actually planning to do that more in 2022-23, but we've already started now with academia. So we've signed a partnership agreement with RMIT University, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Australia. But here in Vietnam, they've been there for 20 years, and we're going to help bring 5G education alongside IoT, automation, cloud computing, edge computing, AR, VR, and machine learning to students across Vietnam through RMIT. And we're going to do that online and digitally using the Ericsson platform for 5G education driven out of Sweden. We do this in various markets, and we've chosen Vietnam as one of our target markets for that. So these are different ways we're working towards helping bring 5G to Vietnam.
Yeah, I think this is great. We actually we heard that actually the 5G influence actually going beyond and touching upon so many areas, and it also in collaboration with many other sectors like on education or with the business community, with academia. There's so many others, and I think the fact that you also mentioned the fact that we can also utilize existing infrastructure, so that will be leading to a very important issue that we'll be touching upon later on, the cost optimization of the 5G, and let's come to that later. I think I'd like to give another question, that is, what do you think that would be your observation on the useful case of 5G rollout in the past 2 years in Vietnam, apart from one you already mentioned with the IMIT? What about others? Is there any good example on working with some business, some Vietnamese business?
No, specifically we've been testing and trialling and piloting the 5G technology
I see.
with the operators.
Right.
In terms of use cases, what we have shared, and we are going to continue to share actually over the coming years, very importantly, are the different type of 5G use cases we've deployed in other countries. For example, in the US, Ericsson itself has factories around the world, of course, and in the US, we've built a factory in Texas, a smart manufacturing plant with less than 100 people, building 5G base stations, but using 5G technology to have robots, cloud mobile robots, automatic guided vehicles, tracking of all critical assets with all these different sensors in the factory. And what we found was that we actually increased productivity and efficiency by 10 to 20%. And the output per employee increased by 2.2 because of that automation that we introduced to the factory.
210%, yeah.
Yeah, so very importantly, we are focusing very much on leveraging 5G for smart manufacturing in Ericsson, but also in partnership with ABB, Mercedes-Benz, many different airports around the world. A 1,000 times.
Last question from this section, that is what lesson Vietnam should learn, actually, or what Vietnam should do in order to make the process faster. Maybe for you it's okay, it's right, but from Mr. Sen's point of view it's a bit slow. So we do have high expectations on this one, and how Vietnam should do to make it happen faster.
I think Vietnam is already doing what it should do, and that is working with vendors like Ericsson and others as well, by the way, not just Ericsson, in trialling and testing 5G technology first and foremost, working with the operators together, not only in the technology side, but also in identifying use cases, like in the innovation lab that we talked about earlier in the video you saw with Viettel, but also sharing global use cases, examples of how we're using 5G in Switzerland, in Australia. They launched 5G already in 2018-19, for example. South Korea you mentioned earlier as well, and the US, of course. So that's important, to share those type of initiatives. The Triple Helix collaboration between academia, industry and government, super important. And I think that's something that Vietnam is also driving. And I think it's very important to also release the spectrum, of course. Spectrum is important. So spectrum is the oxygen for the ICT industry. It's the oxygen that you need in order for mobile broadband technology to breathe, you know. So spectrum is like land almost. If you look back in Vietnam's history, we were talking a bit earlier about the 1970s and 1980s, and really using land and building bridges and tunnels and airports and seaports, all that physical infrastructure is what drove, to a large extent, Vietnam's socio-economic development. And GDP has averaged over 6% for the last 20 years. The poverty rate in Vietnam, 3%, I remember in 1993 when Ericsson first came to Vietnam 30 years ago. Today it's
totally
less than 3%. I mean, completely so low. It was 51% back then actually. Now it's less than 3%. We became a middle-income economy, and we're destined now. We're on track to become a high-income economy by 2045, by 100-year anniversary of independence. Vietnam will become a dragon economy, a fully industrialised nation. That will be done through science, technology, innovation, enabled by 5G. Whereas the past was very much about manufacturing, labour-intensive, low-cost, low-skill-based manufacturing, a lot of FDI, $350 billion worth of FDI for the last 30 years, and land that needed to be used in an effective way with that physical infrastructure. But moving forward, it's about digital infrastructure. It's the digital infrastructure that will drive the next wave of sustained and inclusive socio-economic development, but you need spectrum for that. So I think Vietnam is doing a good job also in managing the spectrum. It's a very valuable asset, and our technology is designed to make the best use of that spectrum for 4G and 5G efficiently. So Ericsson makes sure that all useful frequency bands, almost all of them, can actually leverage 5G, or 5G can actually leverage those spectrum bands. That's very important, and I think that way you can make best use of your spectrum as well.
I understand actually what Dennis would like to emphasize actually to be talking about the digital infrastructure possibly created, and how vast, how huge it would be, given the fact that actually this is, I think maybe you can reach an increase in terms of exponenting, not just adding, not just multiplying, but actually exponenting.
Very much.
So that's a pretty impressive increase in the future. So I'm sure that every one of us will be happy to join as a part, as a enabler or facilitator or contributor to this process.
Just briefly, I mean, you've got 9 billion people in the world today. So with 3G and 4G, we always aim to have up to 9 billion people using it. And we did. We almost got there, right? With 5G, you're talking 30, 40, 50 billion over the next 10, 15, 20 years, because you're going to be connecting machines, not just people.
Exactly. So it seems that with technology, actually, we eliminate all the space and geographical proximity, all kind of that, and putting, as I sit next to you and other 8.9 billion people around the world.
Sure.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you very much, Dennis. Let's come to Mr. Trần Tuấn Anh. I think maybe the fact that Mr. Trần Tuấn Anh representing the agency, the Vietnam Telecommunication Authority today is very important. First of all, I'd like to ask you about what you think about the progress have been made regarding the digital transformation. What have happened since former Prime Minister issued the decision 749 in June 2020? It's almost 2 years. What do you think about that?
Yes, thank you. And I think the question is concerning with 2 year doing something concerning with digital infrastructure is a very, very tough to say we have something, but we do many things to support the program of decision of the Prime Minister 749. And so I think the goal of the decision is the two things. We build up the developing digital government, digital society, and digital economy in Vietnam. And the second goal is that we forming the Vietnamese digital businesses and have ability to go global with Vietnam, making Vietnam platform or something cloud computing, OS, etc. And in 2 years, I think we concerning with COVID-19, because we have a difficulty to not to Vietnam or in the whole country, every country, but I think that we made a lot of things, because for example we move on the fixed broadband. Fixed broadband in Vietnam Vietnam now stay in 47 places in the world, And for mobile broadband, we have a place 50, and is a quite good for Vietnam. And also, and in this 2 year, we deployment fiber optic to the home, and more than 80% of household with a fiber optic, and so, and in the COVID-19, we deploy more 4G for the whole commune, and for provide internet access for school and for people in the area without the connection. It was hard, and is encouraged working with operator and so many things. And how I can say, in the short of the decision of Prime Minister, we have tried to make a decent government with Vietnam belong to 70 leading country with e-government. And second thing, we have improving the digital economy. We have tried to 2025, 20% of GDP will be a digital economy. And Vietnam in the telecommunication will be 15 position, 15 one of the 50 country in the world by IDI index. Another thing, and the measure of the program is that we focus on the people. It means each people will have a smartphone, will have a high speed connectivity, will have education on the digital economy and digital use case or something like that, and we have a fiber optic cover the 100%, try to 100% of the household for full Vietnam coverage with fiber optic. And as Mr. Dennis says, concerning about allocation frequency band, for us is exactly the question: is it 5G or 6G or anything? We need a frequency band, and so the allocation frequency band is critical. And so in this 2 year, ministry already passed decree on the auction for frequency band, because a kind of legal framework for doing auction. And so it's a decree 99, 88, and 2021, and already, and now only ministry working on the condition and the auction procedure. And we have a target that in 2022, at the end of the year, we will already allocate the 5G frequency band, and 5G, 4G frequency band flexibility for operator, and so they will upgrade their 4G network to 5G network, and so, and nowadays we have on the commercial trial on 5G, we have more than 300 Node B, G Node B, and around Vietnam, and nowadays we have nearly 1 million subscribers 5G. We try to make some connection, some business case, and some how I can say some use cases in public sector, in medicine sector, for smart manufacturing, for smart education, for smart medicine care, and so. And the last one, I want to talk with the environment in Vietnam, because we try a lot, and I think the operator in Vietnam, and not only telecommunication, IT operator, and they try to make a platform, make in Vietnam. It's the firstly. Secondly, we try to make the internet space in Vietnam is safety, and security, safety. And Vietnam is of the, I think is more than 95% cases on the internet with the resolve by Vietnam operator. And on security and security safety on the network is I think is the major thing after the frequency allocation, because we can make a belief that everyone use everything on the internet in the open air, and we have innovation, we have activities, and we have how I can say healthy internet for everyone. And I will try to add more is digital transformation. By my opinion, is the business model is a chain transformation chain. The relationship between company chain, the processing chain, everything chain, and they depending on the data flow. And the critical thing is that what is the data flow mean? And so when we to combine the 5G network, we need to combine the AI, machine learning, and VR, VX, etc. And very important is I do hope that Ericsson will have institute in Vietnam, University in Vietnam, education on 5G, because the idea of the resources, people is a major. I think we support our not network, 5G network, but use K and understanding, and everyone move on innovation, because the 5G is an environment for innovation, not only access internet, even entertainment. Entertainment is a smart thing. Okay. And I think I do hope try.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tonang. I think a lot of progress, a lot of information has been provided in terms of the implementing on telecommunication as well as on the digital transformation plan. We heard that actually Vietnam actually made a lot of a big coverage in terms of fixed broadband, mobile broadband, and fiber to the home. All those three are really, in my opinion, as the user of the internet, actually, I think this is very impressive. And also in terms of even the cost, when you compare the cost of using all this 4G and all of them, it's rather cheap compared to other countries. So also with also very big volume of the data given by 4G also. So I think maybe the Ministry of Information and Communication has been really working hard to make things happen. It's easier, more affordable, more accessible for people of Vietnam. And actually, I think maybe Mr. Tonang have already mentioned one thing, which is the auction of the spectrum. I know that Mr. Tonang actually personally behind this one, he's very instrumental in making this happen. In terms of one of the major person who is behind this important policy. In terms of the 5G, what do you think about the importance of the 5G rollout in Vietnam in the digital transformation? How do you think that with your authorities' role in the future, how do you think that you could do something to make 5G really like an enabler, like Dennis said, about to help it to accelerate the process of digital transformation? I think we talk a lot of 5G. We know the three critical services of 5G is enhanced mobile broadband with 10 times or 20 times for high speed compared with the 4G, and we have critical latency, critical communication with low latency, less than 1 millisecond, and we have massive IoT connection, more than 1 million devices in 1 square kilometer. And what do you think when we have such a 5G enabled in Vietnam? Is mean with the 5G we collect or we maintain or we make I think it make a data environment, and digital transformation is depending on data, and we have successful on make a result efficiency of manufacture, everything make decision is on based on data. Before that we based on digitalization something, but now we based on the environment of data, connecting data and sharing data and open data, and not inside Vietnam, around the world, because we are in internet, and the only one technology less
to allow us to make it happen. It's a 5G, and so I think a 5G is a critical digital infrastructure. One of the critical digital infrastructure for the digital transformation. And of course, parallel with 5G, we need to support more efficiency to maintain the network, depending on cloud computing, depending on platform. And nowadays we talk about cloud computing and AI and machine learning and many things. We make optimize the data, and we just like the data mining.
Yeah.
We take the real very valuable data for economy development and digital economy and digital society. And I think 5G is a very critical thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Given the importance of the 5G, so what would be the plan of your authority in the near future? Can you just share with us, if there's no secret about that, can you share with us some of the information or some of the direct, I would say, major orientation that the Ministry of Information and Communication or your Vietnam Telecommunication Authority is about to do in the near future?
Yes. I think depending on the idea of the government, when we talk about the 5G network, we talk about the deployment of for 5G network is not full as the issue. The issue is concerning with society, operator, and user, and we need to compare. We try to make efficiency, so we try to combine whole is the one. It's actually, but the operator is a driving force, of course. And I think is by our line is in 2022, in parallel with the 6G study researching with a company around the world. We have to strategy to complete the 4G, 5G frequency allocation in this year. And afterward, I think the coverage of the network with target 25% coverage of population in for 2025. I think is a very tough target and a very high requirement. But I think the Viettel, VNPT, Mobifone, Vietnam Telecom, they will already try to make it happen because they see the future of the 5G and they see the future new services for the Vietnamese market. And so I think it's nowadays we can talk about the frequency allocation is for telecom operator. For people, for public, we in ministry we have many strategy for deployment making Vietnam platform. And we have nowadays 38 platform, major platform with for IT company to deploy in Vietnam for smart factory, smart education, and for the government sector is a win. At the end of the 2022, we try to make the available of data sharing between the data of population, data of financial, data of medicine. We connect all together, and so when we're sharing, we take a framework for open data access for environment to push up the innovation in the Vietnam. And so I think it's a major thing.
I totally share with you. I think that's a very tough job for Ministry of Information and Communication. Mr. Tonang already mentioned the target of setting 25% of the coverage will be available, will be expected to be available by the year 2025 for Vietnam. I heard that actually Korea set the target for 60%. So, but actually South Korea is ranking as the second country so far, just only after China. So I think maybe 25% is really a very tough job. And given the fact that this is so many tough things ahead, what we heard about so far, just maybe some progress like the Viettel with Ericsson and Qualcomm. And I know that last year, by having achieved that one, and then we make the Viettel as 6th corporation in the world, right? As they name themselves. And Vietnam is 6th country in the world. whichever to possess the 5G devices. So this is really encouraging. But I understand that it is just an initial effort. Of course, extra effort will be needed in order to make things and make the commercialization for full utilization of people in Vietnam. I know that that's always a tough job because the expectation from the TNC, expectation from private enterprise always very high. So the government now also have to work in 5G speed in order to fulfill the expectation of the business community. Thank you very much, Mr. Tanay. So next now will be the tough one from the private sector. Now I'm turning to Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Sơn, the chairman of the Media Venture Vietnam. I think how do you think how do you see the use of 5G in different sectors? Or maybe you can share with us your own experience about what would be the experience of using 5G, applying 5G even on the testing on a pilot basis, maybe in the healthcare sector or the education sector or some sector that you have much experience with.
Yeah, if you look at the pillars of the digital transformation, you will see that 6 pillars of the process, mobility, IoT, social media, cloud, then blockchain. If you look at all of that, it needs the infrastructure that power it. So I think that there's no questions about the importance of the quick rolling out of the 5G technology. And the quicker we're rolling out and commercialize this, we will create a very huge opportunities for companies. So let's talk about mobility, for example. You will see that Dennis mentioned a case that very similar to the company that we're working with. They have an operation center in San Jose, and using the Da Vinci robot, they actually can operate a heart surgery in the Bạch Mai hospital.
I see.
And you see all the costs that can save, that you don't really need to fly that person to US on the paperwork and everything. You save a lot. We invest in the company called Dr. Anywhere, and we focus on the telemedicine. And you see that during the last 2 years, because of the COVID-19, the numbers of people using our app make a 300% growth. So if we're looking at the other sector, which is vocational training, with the 5G technology, you can actually using a very high technology center in Sweden or in US that actually can train the workers in the shipyard right here, using AR and VR and everything. So the opportunities is huge. But the better use of the 5G is actually what we call the liquid and link concept. Liquid and link is, it's like water, right? It's connect everything, and then you have the networking effect. So, for example, in education, what we happily jokingly said that we would like to bring the Amsterdam school to Hà Giang, right? With the friction of cost. Why? Because millions of people can using it. So anh Tuấn Anh mentioned about the data. With 5G, it's actually we can act with the data in the real time. In the past we said every market research is already outdated. Because when it's delivered
as soon as it's already available, it's already outdated.
9 months old. But with 5G, you actually can work with the data in the real time.
Live data.
So I think anh Tuấn Anh mentioned entertainment, for example, because one of the pillars of the digital economy is social media. And look at, we now talking about the creator economy. So everyone, because it's linked with, it's very easily to share and commercialize their content. And that will fuel what we call the nano entrepreneur.
Nano entrepreneur.
In the past, you have, you need to create a enterprise. You need to hire staff. But right now, you see a lot of people just a solo entrepreneur, just himself. But with the technology, they can link with all that resource, and they can make a fortune in a couple of years. Look at what happened with the game industry in Vietnam, right? So I think it's a huge opportunities when we commercialize the 5G technology.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thanh Sơn. I really like the concept that I heard for the first time ever, the nano entrepreneur. Yeah, despite the fact that I have been working in enterprise development for 20 years, but this is still very shocking. I understand actually, this is when you're talking about nano entrepreneur, it's still the same. Every individual or every person who run their own enterprise. But by using nano term, I understand that given the fact that how big the market is today and how small the entrepreneur is, despite the fact that we have so many sole proprietorship. For example, in the US, around 22 million are single owned enterprise. Just only one self-employed person, accounting for almost maybe 60 or 70% of total 28 or 29 million enterprise in the US. But however, I think the idea of putting the concept into enterprise and the importance of 5G, I think this is very important. That is in order on how to develop, how to enable every individual and to integrate better into the world business performance this day. I think it's really good. And I think this is also a very good example. Mr. Serge provided us with the healthcare, with the education, and the idea of liquid and link concept. I think this is also very important to the fact that actually 5G can also make many things happen. Dennis also mentioned that, and I think maybe we never mentioned any kind of implication for the sector development in the past with 2G, 3G. It started a bit with 4G, but with 5G, I think maybe 5G is no longer a single technology, but actually an enabler for so many technology. So this is really important. And this is the private enterprise. This is a business committee who actually identify and see and realize this opportunity. So I think this is really promising and encouraging for all of us to expect for not just only from TNC but also from a lot of private enterprise, especially from the nano entrepreneurs, like Mr. Sun said. And also, that's one other thing that we also see, which is very interesting, is that during the past 2 years, as I mentioned, in the first place, COVID-19 actually have a lot of negative influence on our economic picture, but also it creates some opportunity and give pressure for so many that have to think of a new way to actually to make the business opportunity bigger and more available in the new economic context. So I would like to ask Mr. Sun a follow-up questions. Given all those important things and all the liquid and link implication, all that sort of thing, what do you think could be a good advice for our business community here in Vietnam with the rolling out of the 5G and its implication in digital transformation, so on and so forth?
I think the first one is we all talking about digital transformation, but it's all start with people. So it's all start with the changing your mind and your perception about the new economy. So the concept of the digital economy, digital government is openness. So you need to make your enterprise open for new idea, new technology, new disruption. We all talking about ecosystem, right? So how could you create an ecosystem if you have a closed mindset? So in terms of rolling out the technology, when we work with the companies, some of them, for example, some of them still rely on the for example, on-premise application or technology.
Yes.
When the new economy is require you to be open and rely on cloud. So I think the first one is the change in terms of mindset. And the second is, anh Tuấn Anh already mentioned the data. So how you use the data and how you, they're talking about data is the new oil, right? Or new energy.
Yeah.
So how you use that? How you the data refinery, right? You have the oil refinery. Now you have the data refinery.
Yes.
How you can make product, how you commercialize from that new oil. That data is very important. And the first one is because I work with both big company and small and medium-sized company, all need a quick win to inspire people. So we need to have a bigger pictures. We need to look at the road ahead, but we also need to give people some quick win over the new technology, which is make their work more interesting, make their work more, easier, so they have more time to develop themselves and jumping into the new economy.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a very good advice. I'm sure that this will be applicable not just only when we have 5G, but we have many other things. We're very important to keep our mindset open. And actually keep changing the mindset. Do not stay in the comfort zone for too long, and otherwise then everything will pass, and then you are the only one who left behind. So I think this is which is very important, and it's good that in the past few years, apart from 5G, we also mentioning about the innovation and many other things. But when I personally, when I took a look deeper into the business picture of Vietnam, I saw that in terms of statistics, actually not so many encouraging figures. For example, regarding the investment of the enterprise into the science and technology innovation for Vietnam is less than 1% of the revenue. It is very low compared to other countries. I know that, for example, up to our ASEAN neighboring countries, for example, Singapore, Malaysia, will be around, on average, around 9%. And maybe for other countries like Korea, Japan, could be like 30 to 50%. You know that actually the enterprise do spend a lot on their science technology innovation. And I think this 5G will not be delivering the good thing if the enterprise do not want to invest as well. So I think, of course, on one hand, we share with the enterprise difficulty because they have so many things to spend. Not to mention the fact that actually we are still in COVID time, so every cost have to be cut down. But on the other hand, this is also a shortcut actually on how to accelerate their business performance, given the fact that the world changing. And I think during the past 2 years, we all know that when we're talking about new normal, so every enterprise also have to work out, have to restructure themselves in order to catch up with the new economic context. So I think this is also one very important factor that we need to keep in mind. Mr. Sơn, given your experience working a lot with TNC and also private enterprise, what would be your lesson for Vietnam you think we should learn from, comparing to what other countries, comparing to what other TNC also benefit from the other government policy? What do you think that Vietnam should learn? What would be the lesson for Vietnam to help with the 5G and digital transformation?
I think it's all about partnership. So when we look at the role of the government, of the TNC, or the private sector, we're talking about a different stakeholder. But how's that stakeholders work together and promote their technology and share their best case studies. And I think if we can force that partnership between the government, private sector, academia, and TNC, it would be the innovation lab in a bigger sense. Right. Because the more we talk, the more we communicate, then the more product, the more good policy, good use case study that can accelerate the utilization of the new technology.
Yeah, that's I think very short but very comprehensive recommendation for the government. I think the partnership not just only a single or simple word.
Yeah.
It means a lot with a lot of the inside implication on how we cut down, we save up all the effort. We do not have to reinvent the wheel, and we have to work out the best in every stakeholder, in every element, in order to save the cost and to bring out the best efficiency for the benefit of the business and the people. I think this is, I'm sure that this is also every government policy, government agency always want to do as a now. You know that a lot of the government ministry, a lot of minister, and even the prime minister, deputy prime minister now saying that actually we really want to put the people at the centric of the everything, of the policy, of the innovation. What we have to do regarding this, the society, this the economy, is actually to make the people feeling easier and do not have to spend that much of money, do not have to spend that much of the time in order to save time and to do business and even for other purpose of the life. I think this is, I'm sure this is one of the things that everyone or every government should be focusing. Yeah, I think all our three invited guests have already shared very good, very valuable insight on what do they think from their perspective toward the 5G, toward the 5G rollout, and toward the 5G and digital transformation. And I'm sure that these variable sharing not only good for 5G, but for many others as well. And this is also, I think, every time we have a good technology available, we have to rethink about what we have been acting with our everyday work, with our business.
Yeah.
And especially like Mr. Sun also mentioned, we have to keep changing the mindset. Or we can say that changing the mindset is unchanged thing.
Yeah.
That we have to keep changing our mindset and keep renovating, keep innovating. Otherwise, it will be left behind.
And, and business models as well.
Business models,
To language as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Innovation, technology, but innovation in business models.
Yes.
Innovation in collaboration.
Yeah.
It's about people. It's about people.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah. You want to share with us more on that in terms of business model? And you can share with us the experience of Ericsson as well.
Yeah. So
of the business model you keep changing over the past
touched on it
30 years.
beautifully. I think Mr. Sun and Mr. Tuanang touched on it earlier. I mean, it's innovation. We often think about technology innovation, but innovation is also very important in mindset, innovation in collaboration and partnerships, innovation in business models. So in Ericsson, we focus on that, and like Mr. Sun said, you've got to create an environment that's conducive to innovation, to being disrupted. You've got to be open to disruption, and so what we do in Ericsson very much so is we bring in a lot of graduates with fresh ideas, because I think sometimes we think experience is the best. You know, you should have a lot of experience. I've been 32 years in Ericsson. It's great experience, but someone coming in fresh from outside can be even more innovative than me. They may have great ideas through their experience. Everyone's got different experience, and sometimes having less experience, you might have a more open mind, and you might be more fresh and open to new ideas. So we welcome graduates. Diversity and inclusion is very important for innovation. The more diverse and inclusive your organisation is in terms of gender, race, age, education background, the more productive, the more innovative we become as a company. We actually see profit grow. There's been studies done by Deloitte and other companies that shows that not only companies but countries' GDP grows significantly with more diversity and inclusion in organisations. So that's something Ericsson also pushes and promotes.
Yeah, so we can say that actually apart from the people, as Mr. Sun mentioned in the first place, actually the business culture.
Yes.
That's what entrepreneurs have created also very important role in terms on how to shape the business path in the future. I think this is also a very good thing that actually this is a very old enterprise like Ericsson.
Sure. 150 years old.
Yeah, 150 years old. Think about how important the young and the youth is. I think it is maybe only by living for really long you realize that how important living young and dynamic.
We need to be startup orientated. You know, not just, we have to constantly reinvent ourselves in order to survive this long, nearly 150 years, 146 years.
1876 something.
That's right.
Yeah, something like that. Almost 150 years. Because when we think about the business or the enterprise development story in Vietnam, you know that when you go back to, say, for example, I think maybe in Japan they have like a 1,000-year-old enterprise something.
Wow.
In Japan and in Austria they have like a 1,400-year-old something. So, and I personally visit some of the rather old enterprise in Japan, like 100 years old. So they have to think about, actually one of the problem is that the generation through generation, they cannot keep up with the momentum that have been created. But I'm not quite sure whether or not the 5G will be the factor actually to help one person to have a close communication with all many enterprise and over the years. I think that one will possibly change. Will be the changing trend in the future. Thank you very much. Our guests have been sharing very good in depth. So I would like to come to the second part of our talk show today. That is, how do you think about given all those challenges and opportunities, what will be the road ahead? What will be the one thing you can think about, the recommendation you made to the all three stakeholders in Vietnam? But how do you think that Vietnam can maybe do something to neutralize the challenges and to mobilize or to maybe to work with the to take advantage of the opportunities? What would be your recommendation for the government and for Vietnamese enterprise, Dennis?
I think Mr. Sun gave me the answer.
I'll ask him later.
He already gave me the answer in his response earlier. Collaboration.
Let's not take that as pressure. No. You can take it as your own initiative.
Still the idea. Why not? Collaboration. So it's about collaboration. So really, government together with enterprise and academia coming together and working in that triple helix partnership model, and really working on innovative business models, new ways of thinking, new ways of working, which help accelerate the potential for Vietnam. Because we've done a study in Ericsson that shows that we expect almost $1.5 billion worth of additional revenue by 2030 in Vietnam if operators leverage 5G for a range of industries, in particular healthcare, manufacturing, and energy. And manufacturing, we already know that about 2/3 of global manufacturing companies are expected to relocate to Asia Pacific by 2025. It's already on track now, but it's going to be accelerated. And by 2025, with all those manufacturing hubs in Asia Pacific, that gives Vietnam a fantastic opportunity to bring a lot of those manufacturing opportunities to Vietnam ahead of other ASEAN countries and other markets in Asia Pacific by attracting that FDI, attracting that manufacturing investment through digital infrastructure, having 5G digital infrastructure in place by then. So I think the 2025 target is a good one, and I think it's aligned with the opportunities that Vietnam sees moving forward in manufacturing especially, but other industries as well, definitely transport, energy sector, healthcare, education, agriculture of course.
I see. Do you have any more specific recommendation to the Ministry of Information and Communication?
I would say it's really hard to give advice when I know that they're doing such a good job. They reach out to Ericsson.
Just recommendation, not advice. Recommendation.
I think to keep doing what you're doing. I mean, they're doing a great job already. They reach out to companies like Ericsson. They reach out to other companies as well, not just Ericsson. To really take ideas from international companies. And I got to say, I've worked in telecommunications in Ericsson 32 years, and I've lived in some 6 countries. And Vietnam and Vietnamese people and Vietnamese authorities, government authorities, Vietnamese enterprises and entrepreneurs are very hungry to learn. They love to learn, and they always reach out to get advice. So just keep doing that. It really is brilliant, I think, and that's why Vietnam is leapfrogging many other countries in its development, because they are so keen to learn. And students, of course, individuals, nano entrepreneurs are all very keen to learn. I think Vietnam is a very strong learning country, and they love to develop and learn and grow, whilst respecting the past, the history, the tradition,
Right.
but embracing the future and the opportunities. I don't think any country does that better than Vietnam, I have to say.
Yeah. You say that actually Mr. Dennis already practicing the collaboration that we have been doing with the Ministry of Information and Communication. I think this is also a very good thing that where we see that on how to actually to utilize the best expertise from TNC and then to use it in with the context of Vietnam. And of course what we share is also the common cultural value that we also try to have. I think this is both a common point for both the Westerners and for Vietnamese people, especially regarding learning, regarding the attitude about the new technology, about new things, which can bring about a lot of benefit for the life of the people of Vietnam. So I think this is the very good the point that Ericsson has been successful. I think so. Yeah. What about you, Mr. Sun? With the you know that you also share a lot with us regarding how 5G can actually bring benefit to the healthcare, to the education, and also to help fast track the process. And we also mentioned earlier about the partnership between the IMIT University with Ericsson regarding 5G education initiative. So what do you think about such a collaboration? And do you think that we can actually some sort of like maybe to make it on a bigger scale to many others as well in Vietnam?
Yeah, I think for the road ahead, we have a couple of opportunities and challenges. So opportunities is how to prepare the young people to embrace the future and well prepare for that futures. And I think that's why I warmly welcome that cooperation between Ericsson and IMIT. And I think it would be best if we can multiple that cooperation with the other universities of Vietnam, which is leading to my second thing is we need to seriously look at the other effect of the new technology, because then a lot of people will out of job because of new technology, and then we need to upskill and reskilling there. So I think it's very important. And the first one is we need to minimize the digital gap. We need to make sure that the benefit of the 5G can spread around Vietnam and all of people can get benefit of it. So that's why we work with ADB, we work with UNDP on 7 programs for gender and for the entrepreneur in the remote area. So the digital gap is not just only technology, but the gap in terms of knowledge and the gap in terms of skill. And I think the 5G is actually can be very powerful tools to help them in that area. I think that's the main point.
Thank you. And of course we see that the I think in the world we have been talking about the industry and academy linkage for ages, but for every decade maybe that kind of relationship is formed under a new form. For example, this one I think with a very big inspiration from 5G, the IMIT and Ericsson are incentivized to set up a linkage where actually on one hand they bring about the new knowledge for students, on the other hand they also can bring very practical benefit for business community. So I think this is also a very good thing. And
if I can add one thing, when we talk about university, now we have the other concept of the what we call corporate university. So the university within the corporation, and that the Ericsson already working with Viettel on the innovation lab is the other part of partnership that I think very important in the future.
I think that's maybe one of the key points that we need to do regarding on how to make our Vietnamese university actually stronger. I think this the lack of really organic and very close and very efficient cooperation relationship with the corporates actually do not enable has not enabled, I must say, the University of Vietnam to make it stronger. So I hope that maybe every one of us will also be hopeful that our university will be much stronger in the years to come.
Yeah.
And also back to the two sectors that you mentioned earlier on the education and healthcare. What do you think the government can do, both in terms of 5G, both in terms of digital transformation, to unleash the power of these very old, very traditional sectors, but in the new economic context and new social context too?
Yeah, I think let's talk about the healthcare first.
Yes.
So in healthcare transformation, the data is very important.
Yes.
And the data is sensitive because it's the private healthcare data.
Yes.
So, and you know, actually we don't have a very clear guidance on that. And I think the government do very well in terms of setting the awareness of the digital transformation. But then we need to move to the other phase that how we regulate that. And I think that's very important. For example, we work with the gene company. They develop the gene technology. So how we transfer that that data overseas? Is this because me personally, I think it should be stay in Vietnam because it's very sensitive information. That one example. The second is on the our education sector. You know, education create the technology create a new form of education. But how we certify that?
It's very difficult.
I work with actually with Ministry of Information and Communication school for personal development. And we have very clear regulation that how many days they need to attend their classes to get certification.
Participation rate.
But now, you know, they learn online,
can
so
no
they
longer
cannot miss
applicable.
it. So you're talking about the 5G speed. So I think the policy and regulation of the government also face a big challenge that they need to act like a 5G speed.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, these two sectors are a bit different. For healthcare, it is we also need about the aggregation of the data and the interconnectivity of the every on the patient database, as well as how to get the best expertise from doctors in the hospital around the country, around the world. But for education, it's a bit different because what we need to adapt also on the behavioral change, and also how we actually to assess the education, how to assess the student. And I'm sure that every one of us here also be sharing one difficulty when our students, when our children do not go to school to physically meet their friends, their classmates. So that's also the problem. So the 5G is enabler, but of course it needs to be incorporated with other factors as well. To make it like maybe how to say on the management science, management culture of the authority and of the government and of the every family to take into consideration too. So I think this is thing really good. The fact that one thing we see the good thing of 5G, and also we need to develop other need for other consideration as well. Thank you, Mr. Sơn. Back to Mr. Tuấn Anh. You know that on the 24th of March, the Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam decided a Prime Minister decision 411 on the developing and on the strategy on the new digital economy, digital society. What do you think and what do you expect your authority, your agency will do to implement this Prime Minister decision?
For one, I try to make a more understanding thing of the government role in the digital transformation. As a government role, we have some function, leading, guiding, and trigger for the business market, for the market, trigger for development of the digital infrastructure. And so we try to make clearly fourth industry is not concerning on technology. First one concerning on mindset, business model, in everything need to be changed, and so even education will be changed. Maybe you know no need to have a certification.
Yeah.
Maybe we experience it first and then certification, right? And so everything we train, and so in totally in even in ministry we have so many work today, and the question is the goal of the work, and so what is the goal? We try to guideline, to make a strategy, to set up the business model, and government is where we try to invest of private sector, of the foreign investment, and so we make clearly guideline. But is as Mr. Sơn and Mr. Dennis says, is we need a framework for. You say that digital transformation is changing everything, totally changing in relationship, etc. And it means how our framework need to be changed.
Sure.
And so it's very tough.
Yeah.
You know, it's many things concern, and we didn't in one time, one month or 1 year or something like that. Try. However, in the MIC we have a slogan: 5 years we make in 1 year. And so it's a change, and everything, but it's very tough. You understand? It is not because, and so we invite the private sector, invite the foreigner to make a consultancy with them to make a framework available. First one is a framework, and many things. And now we change, even for example in telecommunication sector, we have a new telecommunication law now on drafting procedure, and so I do hope that afterward we will see the more new, and we invite a contribution from you and you both, and so and government working is not a market business, you know. Market is a company, but the government push the government operator to just like a trigger for the market, and so I think is the next 2 years will be the huge investment from operator, telecom operator from Vietnam, VNPT, Mobifone, Vietnam Telecommunication, Vietnam Mobifone, and so they will invest on infrastructure first, and as you said, for them is very tough, because as the infrastructure of economy is less revenue, you know, is they have less revenue to push up the other sector. Because they have a big revenue, is other sector is under question, you know, and is for them. And the second thing is for people. We need to have the same time education, and because the behavior of people to use the real time, not online, offline, is very tough, and so we need to change. And I think the role of government in next decade is cooperate together, because for example we cannot each ministry have a platform for their sector.
Different.
Is a very crazy, you know. We need one platform to share in between sector, and we make efficiency. And this is a key point of the ministry MIC try to make in the next few years.
Very tough job.
Very tough.
Yeah. Do you plan to do it in 5 years or in 1 year only?
Yes, it is our try to slogan, man. So we push our energy in everywhere. So, and have sometime, exactly sometime we need the other view from you, outside view on our work, and it's very helpful, because sometimes we try follow our arrow. We threw the arrow and we follow them, and so we didn't look back, and we problem.
I think you can help.
I just wanted to get clarity. Did I hear Mr. Twanang say 5 Yeah, in 1 year or 5G in 1 year?
No,
5G in 1 year.
5-year plan. We make in 1 year.
I'm only joking. That's a great. They are moving very efficiently, actually.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, and I think the government with the unified data centre as well, national data centre, it's a great initiative, of course. You know, to bring all that data together from different departments and different government authorities and ministries.
We have a master plan on drafting a proposal for Prime Minister to decide, and we have to allocate big places for data center for improve the cloud computing in Vietnam platform.
That's great.
We try to make one platform, and program we have is the same as other country. Government cloud first, and so afterwards we take one part of government cloud to sharing data, open data, and for enterprises. So I think it will be better.
Yeah, I pretty much share with the difficulty that MOIC actually set up. I think maybe for legislation work, I have to say that it's already difficult. But legislation in the technology, I think it's even much more difficult. We used to have, I think, maybe the more rules, right? Saying that for every 18 months, and then the density of the chip in every square inches would be double. But I think now the more rule does not apply. Does not apply any longer. So having said that, I mean that actually it is also very, very difficult to predict about the change of the technology and how we set up the framework, like Mr. Tuan said. So I think, but we cannot do that from the government point of view if we do not have the help and the collaboration from the enterprise. What do you think, Dennis and Mr. Sơn? What do you think that you can do to actually alleviate, to reduce a burden a little bit for Mr. Tuan? What do you think?
We already participate in some of the ministry initiatives. Mr. Tuan mentioned the 33 or 38 platforms working on the SME DX program, and we contribute 2 platforms.
That's great.
So I think that's great that the ministry have that open mind, enterprise-centric approach, concern with us and talking with us and trying to find the problem. What would be the problem? Because I think the identify what they call the pain point. The problem is very important, and by working with the private sector, we can identify the problem and identify the pain point. And then once we identify it, we have a different stakeholder can help to solve the problem. From private sector, from the policy makers, from the technology enabler. So I think, like Dennis said, I believe we are on the right path.
I also have very strong trust into what Mr. Sơn said, because he already did. He already did it. He already contributed a couple of the platforms among the 38 platform for the digital transformation. I think this is maybe also a very good thing that we see that the government agency, government ministry do not stand alone, do not go alone. Now we are talking about, if you want to go really far, you have to have other people to be your companies. So I think it's a very good thing that actually you have good friends here. The TNC and the private enterprise who actually are company acting as a good company, providing good advice and actually having done something already. So I think this is also good. And but that on vice versa also put even a heavier burden on Mr. Tuan's role. How to meet the expectation of the business community, right?
To make a balance between the government interest, operator interest, and public interest is very tough all the time. And I think we didn't have one great model to apply for. And so it's depending on culture of the population, depending on the behavior, depending on the system. And so I think is digital transformation will push us to change our idea, and so the people first, education people first. Even I talk about the technology very important, but the people first. The mindset, if they didn't change, they cannot move on, and so they need to understand the digital transformation will make the path for the pace for their business, for their private life, and so make a better place, and we try to make the clearly framework to people to understand, to enterprises to understand, to support each other. The government role is less. We try to government role is a sharing data between and open data for society. But we less involved in the process of the business of the society. And other thing with, but very important for government, I think, is next is we need to have a very strong security on the cybersecurity on the cyberspace, because it's very important. Is as you Mr. Sun says about privacy. We even didn't have a law on private on data, and so I think is when we talk about data is the resources, the energy or something like that. Maybe we need to also framework concerning with devise the level of data, which level of data we can share with the and so it's make clear. And in our program, why we established 3 big in master plan and data center in Vietnam to make all the data inside, and we can share and not outside in the program. And it's the security of the national security, etc. is concerning, because the data will affect everything. If there's the wrong data, the wrong decision, everything. And so we need to control no violation of the network, and make the people to understand and sure to go on life. And I think many sector now in MIC we try to put, for example, mobile money, and we try to depending on mobile money, because people use the mobile phone and they can make a transaction and with the highest security, with a high KYC, and so it's etc. And going on with medicine, with airport, with everything. And so anyway, and the government role is make the clear understanding framework to guideline the society to move on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tanay. You see how heavy the burden is, right?
Wow.
Dennis, I'm sure that not only Ericsson, but I think Sweden and other government also should be part in helping our government to work on this one.
Oh yeah, and the Swedish embassy, the Swedish ambassador, of course, I'm very close with her. We talk often about this. We did a podcast recently on the Quoc Cang podcast show in Ho Chi Minh City. So Ambassador Anne Morve and I did one on Swedish innovation, Swedish culture, and what makes Sweden so successful as a country when it comes to innovation. And we are constantly, and I know the Swedish community in Vietnam are always wanting to share best practices with Vietnam when it comes to innovation, sustainability, quality, safety. And I think Vietnam is doing a great job balancing the digital economy and public safety, national security, of course, as well, tied in there, and data privacy, because it is a balancing act when it comes to data management. And I think Vietnam is doing a very good job in trying to balance those in a good way, in a sustainable way.
Thank you very much. Thank you all our guests for providing very valuable insight. I think maybe before I come to the conclusion, I just wonder if any one of you want to share more on this topic, or any follow-up idea?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much. So maybe, if I may, I would like to come to the closing remark for today. I think you understand that actually for the 5G, Vietnam's getting ready for 5G in digital transformation. We see that a lot of challenges for Vietnam and a lot of opportunities also. I think I read somewhere that actually for country as approaching 5G, there's always the big challenges, including the infrastructure, including the time taken to provide service, including the cost optimization, as Dennis mentioned earlier, and as well as the last but not least, the customer experience when using whatever, how fast it is, how trendy, how modern the technology is, the customer experience always play a very important part for people to use it or not. But for opportunities, I think maybe 5G, as we see, that actually will be contributing very crucially into the digital transformation, and it will help a lot with our e-commerce, which have already playing in part in the developing our digital economy, which have already seen that actually Vietnam have made a lot of progress, actually better than Google and Ben expectation. But I'm sure that will be much better and better in future. And also the 5G will help with the to accelerate and to realize other things, including the Internet of Things, the AI, and the big data, and many others. We heard that from all our invited guests on how 5G can bring benefit to the healthcare, to the education, logistics, manufacture, and many other things. But I'm sure that all these things will be translated into a much more competitive and much more stronger business in Vietnam, as not just only in the Vietnam market, but also in other markets as well. So I'm sure that despite the fact that the past 2 years saw a lot of negative influence of the COVID-19, but it also actually maybe brought some pressure for people who would like to stay just in the comfort zone only, to step out of that and then to take further challenge and then to take up bigger opportunities. So I think that would be the bright picture that we all expecting to see for Vietnamese business community, for Vietnamese government, and for every stakeholder, for people in Vietnam to have a better quality of life using the much more modern technology in the future. So with that, I would like to wish all our invited guests here very good health, very good career, and also very good opportunity that we can sit together like this one to exchange and to share our idea on how we can contribute to 5G and other things to make our digital transformation much more successful in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.